Let's look at our third example of proofs involving parallel lines. I've drawn the figure here, so draw it in your notes and make sure to label it properly. We are given that segment AC is parallel to segment DF, and segment AB is parallel to FE. So let's go ahead and label those in our figure. I'm going to label AC is parallel to DF, and AB is parallel to EF. And angle 2 is congruent to angle 3 is also given. We're asked to prove that angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. So let's see what all of this given information will help us with to get there. So if we know these lines are parallel, then they are cut by a transversal. So we can tell that angle, let's see, I'm looking at these two, angle 3 and angle 4 are on alternate sides of that transversal. So these would be considered alternate interior angles. So let's go ahead, well, let's get there first and then we'll map all that out. So I'm saying that angle 3 is congruent to angle 4 comes from the fact that we were given that AB is parallel to EF. So we'll put that together in a minute. We can also say similarly that angle 1 and angle 2 are alternate interior angles. With DF parallel to AC, they're cut by the transversal that's like DC right there. So those would also be alternate interior angles, and they would also be congruent. So then if we know that angle 2 is congruent to angle 3 is congruent to angle 4, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 1, then 1 and 4 must also be congruent. So let's start mapping all of that out in our proof. I think it's time. So let's put the first given statement. Let's go ahead and put AC was parallel to DF, and that was given. Now what did that help us with? We need to put that next. So if AC was parallel to DF, that helped us say that angle 1 would be congruent to angle 2. And the reason we know that is those are alternate interior angles. So we're going to say alternate interior angles are congruent. Now let's put the second given statement. So let's put AB is parallel to FE. And that helps us state AB is parallel to FE. That helps us state that angle 3 and 4 were congruent. Well, let me finish this right here. That would be given. I'm getting ahead of myself. So that helps me state angle 3 is congruent to angle 4 because those were alternate interior angles, and those are congruent. So now we know that if angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, angle 3 is congruent to angle 4, and it is given, so let's put this one down here, that angle 2 is congruent to angle 3. That was given. Then we can conclude that angle 1 must be congruent to angle 4 using the transitive property. So let's put the final step. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 4 using the popular transitive property. We've seen this one a lot. It helps a lot with these proofs because you're dealing with types of angles, and usually one relates to another, and then that one relates to the third one, and then you can say the first one equals the third one. So that's why we see that reason a lot with these types of proofs. So let's look at the two other ways we could have written this. Now let's say for this proof, for example, you wrote all your given statements first, and then you wrote some reasons after that, and you concluded with your final statement. It's not that that would be wrong. That's perfectly fine. It's just that I like to go in logical order when I can. For instance, this given statement gave me that these angles are congruent. This given statement gave me that those angles are congruent. And then I just needed to state the third one in order to conclude the proof. So I like to put it in a very logical, formal order. It's very organized. But it would not have been wrong if you had listed all the givens first and then stated that angle 1 was congruent to 2 and 3 was congruent to 4 because they are alternate interior angles, and then you would have concluded with 1 is congruent to 4. That would also have been okay. Let's just look at the other two ways to write it. So we have the flow proof for example 3. I put the two given statements about parallel lines first. AC is parallel to DF gives me angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 because those are alternate interior angles. AB is parallel to FE gave me that angle 3 was congruent to angle 4 because those were alternate interior angles. Then we were given angle 2 is congruent to angle 3. And then these three statements come together to help us with the transitive property to prove that angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. So it flows with what was given, what it gave me, and how I can put it together in the end. And then the paragraph proof is to write all of this out. And remember, this is the least formal method because it's just a written explanation of all of those steps we've written with the 2-column proof and now the flow proof. It is given that AC is parallel to DF, AB is parallel to FE, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 3. Angle 2 is congruent to angle 1, and angle 3 is congruent to angle 4 by alternate interior angles being congruent. By the transitive property, we can conclude angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. So you can tell by reading that it just sounds a little less formal than all those nice steps that you mapped out in the 2-column proof.